You are listening to the Women in Youth Ministry podcast hosted by me, your CEO, Heather Lee Campbell. Women in Youth Ministry is an organization that seeks to elevate the voices of women in a male-saturated field. Go to womeninyouthministry.com to read our blog, follow us on social media, join our online community, purchase our merch, or support our Patreon. Now, here is Heather and this week's guest. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Women in Youth Ministry podcast. My name is Heather. I'm your CEO, and I am so excited to introduce you all to today's guest, Gwendolyn DeRosa. Gwen, say hello to everybody.
Hi, friends.
Gwen is a storyteller, a queer theologian, and anti-racist educator with a heart for faith formation. She holds a creative writing degree and youth ministry minor from Oral Roberts University, plus a master's in teaching English to speakers of other languages from Ohio Dominican. At King Ave United Methodist Church, Gwen leads worship connections for kids, youth discipleship, and the kinship campus ministry at Ohio State University, all alongside her wife, Felicia, who we've also had the privilege of getting to meet at our Women in Youth Ministry conference. So, Gwen, I don't understand. How do you do this all?
Not alone, that's for sure.
I think that'll preach, right?
Yes.
All right. So I love a good unhinged icebreaker, and I would love for you to choose a number between 1 and 48. This number keeps growing as people listen to the podcast because I keep hearing really good ones and I keep adding them at the end. So anyway, 1 through 48, choose one.
All right, let's do 30.
30. Okay. I think I'm hysterical. I always laugh at my own icebreakers. All right, Gwen. What is the most suspicious snack?
The most suspicious snack?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna say if you've ever gone into an Asian grocery store and they've got like shrimp snacks, I feel like, shrimp. That they're suspicious.
Like the dried shrimp, right? Yeah. Okay. I feel that. I love going to the international supermarket and trying all the different flavors of chips that they have in other countries. And shrimp is a popular flavor.
It's very popular. Very popular.
Yeah. Funny. I think the most suspicious snack has to be those Kinder eggs.
Oh, sure. Yeah, because you don't know what's inside.
No clue what's inside. And apparently a choking hazard.
Yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. They're really small and easy to swallow.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty suspicious. And I know all the trad moms are listening going, finally, someone hears me and knows I hate the snack. So I earned some points, So, Gwen.
That's amazing.
Help us get to know you, because this is your first time on the podcast, right? No.
I did one, but it's been 3 years.
Well, the podcast hasn't been around for 2 years, so that makes sense. So
I'm so glad it's back.
Me too. It's been too long. So let's take a chance to get to know you a little bit more and tell us about your faith journey and your call to ministry.
Yeah, so I grew up in the church. Church was extremely important in my family. We were also super poor, so pretty much that was our only social outlet was church. And so we did church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday night. I remember my parents hosting Bible studies because grown-ups would do the Bible study and the kids would play outside, So church was just how everything in our life revolved around church. And it was pretty, it was non-denominational, pretty fundamentalist, pretty conservative. In the time I was growing up, the evangelical wasn't like a common buzzword, but probably we would have fit that label on there. We had some Pentecostal sprinkled in. So I kind of watched my parents being very involved in church. They volunteered all the time. My mom taught Sunday school. And so I remember being a little kid helping her with like toddlers or like maybe the 3 and 4-year-old stage, just helping her out with Sunday school. And then I just continued in those kind of leadership roles. Like I was a leader in my youth group, stuff like that, right? And adults really put me in positions of leadership, mostly because I think I was really quiet. Super good listener. And really good at making adults happy. Like I was a people pleaser for sure.
Okay. At first I was like, oh, they put you in leadership because you're an introvert. How progressive. And then you're like, because I was a yes person. And I'm like, oh, never mind.
I know, right? Yeah. So yeah, like you said, I went to Oral Roberts University and I volunteered at my church there. I was required by my my youth ministry minor to get involved. And so I did a lot of that. And I just started having lots of big questions. I had questions when I was younger, especially around women in ministry. The culture that I grew up in, women were allowed to teach children. Didn't really do youth ministry. Youth ministry was kind of a man's gig.
Yeah,
right?
Because they've gone through puberty. So once they go through puberty, they're a man, and women can't lead the men.
That might have been the logic. And so, but I didn't understand that. Like that it wasn't logical to me. Like, why can women teach children and they can't teach anybody else? Right. And like, it made no sense to me that women couldn't be pastors, couldn't preach. Right. But I never felt safe asking those questions or talking to anybody about it. Right. So I just kind of like thought about that a lot. And then in college, I started making gay friends. And so, because my churches, said that either being gay was a sin or it was a illness, right? Like a mental illness.
Right.
And then I would hang out with these people and I'm like, I don't think so. Right. So, so for a long time, I didn't go to church. I just kind of set that whole thing aside. I kind of like figured out how to be an adult. That just kind of took over everything. And then after grad school, my wife came out to me as being transgender. And we had been together for about 10 years when that happened. And my thought was, I need a faith community. Like, I'm not going to make it through this if I don't have people praying with me. And I knew that my family was going to be a real struggle. And we weren't close to her family. They lived really far away. And so I had heard about the church that I have been serving for almost a decade now, because they were the loudest about being gay. They marched in the pride parades, right? They had like a giant rainbow flag outside of the church building. And so I thought, okay, that's it. But having grown up being super involved, I was really worried that if I joined this church, it would take over my life.
Right.
And I had seen how people had been used by church ministries, right? And how and as somebody that I have a hard time saying no, like it can be very difficult to be asked to do a lot of things, right? So we would sneak into the worship service and hide in the balcony and then leave before it ended.
I love that. Instead of like back row Baptist, you're balcony Methodist. I love it.
But one of the pastors at the time would, if she wasn't preaching, she would look out in the congregation, find people she had not met, and then leave the front, go sit near them and catch them before they could get out.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, so she caught us. And it was the most meaningful thing during my wife's transition, because she transitioned, the first place she transitioned publicly was at church.
Wow.
Yeah. So started coming with one name, and about 6 months later, new name. And there were not a lot of trans people at the church, right? So like we had lots of gay people, lots of lesbians, right? But not really, like maybe you'd get a visitor, but not somebody that was super involved. And so we just started, like the pastors were super open to learning, right? And so we would just talk to them and sit with them. And I got a prayer partner who is just the most amazing human. And so that was our support community. Because I had tried to go to the LGBTQ center locally and join a support community, and very understandably, the people there were pretty anti-religion.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of harm that has been done towards queer people in the church. And so they couldn't engage me in that way, but that's what I needed. You know, I needed God on my side. I wasn't going to make it through without that. So yeah, called to ministry. Like, I feel like everyone is called to ministry.
Absolutely.
No matter what your job is, no matter where you live, no matter your circumstances, like everybody is called to ministry. And I felt that way in my previous positions, right? Like every interaction I have with somebody, I want to be a light in their life. Like I want to show up as the hands and feet of Jesus, right? And so that just means all the time, you're thinking about like being kind and gentle and caring and compassionate, right? And empathy, right? Because that's how Jesus wants us to show up in the world. And so, so now I get paid for it, which is amazing, right? But I think ministry is everybody's calling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like you got a minor in youth ministry as undergrad. So that was a path that you were going on, but encountering queer people and kind of processing the hurt of the church, like that was what kind of halted that. And then your wife coming out to you got you actually back into the church and using your degree and your passion. And like, what a just fascinating, like full circle moment there of all of those pieces coming together. That's so cool. So
well,
cool.
And I'll be honest, like my youth ministry courses were full of bros, like just full of them. Yeah. And so I didn't feel like I fit in that area. Like
Same.
my faculty were good. They were awesome, but like I'm not a messy games kind of person. I am not an athlete, right? Like I just didn't fit in that group.
Yeah, listen, I am high femme. It's pink glitter all the time. I'm not Chad or Tyler or Jason. Like I'm Heather. Like my friends call me youth pastor Barbie. Like I'm not that. Yeah. So I feel you. And like I say this jokingly, but it really is serious. Like I was the only girl in Bible college who wanted to be a pastor and not marry one. And I felt isolated in those classes. So yeah, wow. I totally get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Oral Roberts, I don't think is very far off theologically from the university that I went to, which was a Southern Baptist university.
Yeah.
So
yeah. People definitely went there to get married.
Oh yeah. We called it Southwest Bridal University. Ring by spring or tuition free.
Wow.
Gotta get that MRS degree. At my college, this is a side tangent, and we're gonna move forward. We had 2 gazebos on campus. One was the engagement gazebo, and one was the breakup gazebo.
Oh my gosh.
But like no one knew which one was which. And so if you were walking towards a gazebo with your significant other, you were like panicking internally because you're like, am I about to be broken up with, or is he about to propose? What's happening, right? Because the man leads to the gazebo, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course.
So you've had this incredible like path back into the church. Tell us what you are passionate about now when it comes to your ministry to young people.
Yeah. So I am over birth through college and then all their grown-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And none of those areas are massive. They're all like 10 people, 10 kids in the nursery. I've got about 25 children and
Mm-hmm.
about 25 teenagers. So
Hey,
like
that's massive to a lot of context, including the Episcopal Church, which I serve in. So,
what I love about it is that I get to spend lots of time with them.
mm-hmm.
I really get to know families and I get to be with them their entire growing up, which is
Mm.
incredible, right? My confirmation class, like I've known most of these kids for 9 or 10 years, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I've watched them grow up and like it's the coolest thing. What I'm really passionate about, this is a challenge and it's really cool, is that my confirmation class, I have 12 kids in it,
Wow.
and it is incredibly diverse.
Mm-hmm.
So I have non-readers in it, and I have people kids who are reading at a college level.
Mm-hmm.
I've got kids with disabilities. I've got kids with neurodivergent. I have kids with extreme trauma. Kids who have been adopted. Kids who, like got out of the hospital 6 months ago for making a plan to end their life.
Right.
So there's just so much going on, right? And unfortunately, confirmation curriculum is not written for those students.
No.
It's very heavy on pretty advanced reading and writing skills, like especially reading skills. And I only have a couple that could really be at that level, right? So, my master's really taught me how to take information and make it accessible for everybody, right? And so I get to use that education in making curriculum accessible for everybody. And I looked to see, like, is there confirmation curriculum for students with disabilities? And I cannot find it.
Right.
So if anybody knows of any, or I'm just going to publish my own.
I think you should. Absolutely. Or like, I wish I would have known this like a year ago, because I know of an organization that's writing confirmation curriculum right now. I'm going to email them after this, because I think that's a thing that is missing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yep. So, so we're using a lot of physical activities. We're using drama and skits, but in ways that we have kids that can read off the script and then kids that don't. So how do you include them, right?
Yeah.
We're using a lot of images and pictures. And yes, sometimes you have to like lecture a little bit. Sometimes you have to read a little bit. But how do we make sure everybody's included in that, right? And then I've got ADHD kids that cannot. We do 2 hours, 2 Sundays a month.
Mm-hmm.
2 hours is too long for my ADHD kids to sit still.
Absolutely.
So like we've got designated fidgets. We do a snack break in the middle. And then sometimes like if they just need to walk around the room, but they're listening, we're letting that movement happen.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's so important to like start off your time. And I do this with adult settings as well, because I'm trying to model for them what inclusivity to youth also looks like.
Yep.
But letting people know, hey, like this is our schedule up front. So you kind of know what we're doing today. It is heavy. It is intense. This is confirmation. That's part of it. It's hard, but feel free to get up and walk around. Yeah. These are all the times we're going to take breaks. So you don't have to be shaking, wondering when the next break is. It's right here for you. Like, you know, I set lots of timers and give them. And then if we're doing 15 minutes of lecture, making sure there's also 15 minutes of activity that follows it. And trying to balance it out. Because I agree, it's hard. Confirmation is this very heady, cerebral, theological thing that we get to do. And now I'm like thinking about the curriculum I just wrote for my diocese. And I'm like, did I do that right? I'm going to have to look back at it. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to let you edit it for me.
There's always adjusting that happens.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most important things is you build relationships with those kiddos.
Yeah.
Like build relationships, right? And you build relationships with their grown-ups.
Absolutely.
Because I had to have coffee with some grown-ups to be like, okay, what can I do to make sure that your kids have the best time here, right? So I have a kid with super high anxiety. He cannot do introductions. Like when we do introductions, he growls, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so the most wild thing, the first time this happened, and this is like a sixth grader that I didn't know super well. And the other kids just growled back and then just moved on. Like
Why is that so funny?
they acknowledged what happened, but like they didn't make him feel weird. They didn't make it a big deal.
They're just like, this
right?
is what we're doing.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh, this kid takes everything apart. Like, you know, we deal with anxiety in lots of ways.
Future engineer. Yeah. That's what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah. He pretty much always refuses like high fives, fist bumps, stuff like so we're just working through like I want to make sure he feels included and welcome and comfortable. Whatever that means, we're going to do it, right? Because my top priority is that these kids know that God loves them.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't really care if they memorize the atonement theories, right? Like
nope, couldn't care less about that.
Like I really want them to know this is their community. These are people that love them. These are the people they can turn to when like they're having a rough time and they're super loved, you know? Yeah. So I really did have to do a massive clean of our youth group room because it had been really cluttered because everything was out in the open. So like all the games were, you could see all of them, right? All of my craft materials. So I did this massive clean. I cleaned out this closet area to just kind of minimize the overstimulation in the room as well. So the room is like, it's not overcrowded. There's not too much happening, right? They know where the fidgets are, but it's not out in the open kind of thing. Because I know that overstimulation can be really hard for ADHD and autistic students as well, you know? So I'm just really trying to be like, how can I set them up for success, right? What do I need to add? What do I need to take away?
It's good. So you have like cleaning the room, minimizing the stimulants, the distractions, building relationships with the kids and parents, fidgets, having breaks, especially snack breaks. Those are the best kinds of breaks. Yeah. Letting them walk around and kind of do them. Having a variety of activities. Anything else that you suggest when we think about how to best include all of our kids?
Yeah, so I really do also give them ownership of things. So they tell me what they want for their snacks. We have a really small kitchen in our youth group room, and so I fill that space with what they tell me to get.
Amazing.
Yeah, because you know, if you're gonna show up on Sundays, you're gonna give up time. I had a kid that gave up a soccer game, you know, and so I want them to feel like I care about them, who they are important, right? And, you know, snacks are easy.
Absolutely.
They do eat so much.
Well, and oftentimes youth with special needs, I feel like are often infantilized in a way where they're not like given a lot of like choice or ownership of things. And seeing all youth as potential leaders, no matter what kind of like limitation they might have, I think is really important and really beautiful. It reminds me a little bit kind of thinking about the diverse variety of activities and just kind of processing everything you've shared. One thing that I did for our confirmation curriculum that I just wrote this year is the team that helped me write this. We were like, what if we taught our young people how to make their own prayer altar at home? And like, this is a way to teach them about the different colors of the liturgy, the different symbols of liturgy, things like that. In my previous church, when I was Methodist, in the Methodist church, you can give them a red stole when they're confirmed. And so that's what we did is we'd have 3 symbols that represent them on one side, 3 symbols that represent their faith on the other side. And that was cute. In the Episcopal church, we don't really do that. And so the prayer altar is kind of a way of still bringing in the symbols and the colors, but in a more episcopal way, as we like to say. And so it was really cool. And I presented it to them, and they got like felt squares in their boxes, and like felt they could decorate, like the box would be the altar itself. And they got prayer beads and incense and a little LED candle and like all different kinds of stuff and instructions for making their altar. And it was like the very first week, which was like the most overwhelming week of all of them, I think, because I also am building relationships with him too. So it's hard. It's a live one. Well, a few weeks later, a mom of a particular student who does struggle with anxiety, is overstimulated very easily, misses a lot of church and youth classes because of that, has some pretty significant, I think, depression, and just has a hard time fitting in. And so mom told me, like, my child really loved that altar kit process, and you should ask her more about it. And so I asked her, I was like, hey, tell me a little bit about this altar kit. And she's like, let me show you a picture. And she was like, honestly, Heather, before confirmation, I would have told you, my faith could go either way. I don't know if there's a God or not. I don't really care. She's like, but I set this up every day. I pray with it every day. And then she even showed me she has this jar with a bead system. And every day she chooses an emotion based off of her bead system. So say she felt happy that day, maybe she'd choose a yellow bead, and she would put it in her jar, kind of like as like a little offering to her altar of her emotions and her feelings before God, and was like building up her little jar. Yeah. And that was the whole point of it all, was like, this is your altar. I have some stuff, make it your own. And she made it her own. And she was like, my faith in God has never been stronger. Like, incredible. Because we gave you the tools to figure out your faith on your own, and it's creative and it's crafty and it's what you make of it. And she made it, and has this really cool faith that she's developing.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love it.
Yeah. So, as we talked about, you've been on the podcast before. Your wife has spoken at our conference before, and you're her biggest cheerleader. You've been around our community for a while now. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what Women in Youth Ministry means to you, because you recently decided to serve as a moderator within our group. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this community is absolutely incredible. I think that pretty much anybody in ministry or in a caregiving position often feels super isolated and alone, and like nobody else understands this. Like it's a weird job, right? We don't get representation anywhere, right? And so it's hard to tell people what we do for a living, right? It's hard to tell people about our job. It's hard for them to understand things that are happening. And most of us can't even talk about a lot of things because of confidence, right? We're trying to keep things private. And so like, we just don't have a lot of people we can talk to. And I think that this applies even more to women in ministry. And then it applies even more to youth ministry, because often youth ministry does not have the kind of institutional supports that pastors get.
Yep.
So pastors get mentors, and they go to meetings, and they have groups, and they could take sabbaticals, like they have all, which they need, right? Like I 100% think that pastors need all that. But then anybody working with children and youth, it's like most of the time they want volunteers. If you can get a paid position, there's like no training, no support. You don't know what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah, you're just flying by the seat of your pants.
You're just like, okay, we're eating pizza again. I don't know what we're doing.
Pizza again. Yay.
And so and then there's just like weird things that AFAB people assigned female at birth, just deal with all the time, right? Like our bodies are wild and are constantly trying to kill us.
Constantly. Listen, I am bleeding today. I got St. Veronica's pin on to remind me I am not the woman with blood. I'm just the woman with blood today.
Yes. And like clothing, outfits, like things that that men in ministry do not ever have to think
Yeah,
about.
raise your hand if you've bled through your vestments before.
Yes, exactly. And uh, it's so great to just have a place to talk to people, right?
Mhm.
And I love how diverse women in youth ministry is. Like, I love that. I think that we learn so much from each other. Like, just our attitudes toward each other are just so kind and gentle, and we need that because we have a lot of harsh things we're up against, and a lot of criticism, lack of support. And so it's great to have a place that we can just come to.
Definitely. It's a different group, and we all have like different theological perspectives. And like you and I are more progressive, but there's people in the group that don't all think the way we do, and we have to figure out how do we justly and compassionately host conversations across theological perspectives that do not align, but in some kind of magical way, the unity that we have as women in this field, like, always wins out against the hurt feelings we might have having different theological perspectives. And that's what makes it so beautiful for me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a magical place on Facebook, and like, that's weird to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So our last question, as we're the Women in Youth Ministry podcast, we have all genders listening to our podcast, but we specifically want to speak to women in this moment. What is something that you would like women listening to hear today?
So I really, especially young women and especially new to ministry, I really want to take a moment and talk about self-esteem and self-worth. And how much you need to like really work on that for yourself so that you can stand up for yourself and stand up for your kids. People really try to bulldoze over us.
Yep.
And we're gonna have to be really strong in who we are. And there are just the most awful statistics about when girls lose their confidence, and it's around age 9.
Oof.
I know. So, one of the things that I did for myself, because I was doing it for my kids. I have a hard time doing things just for myself. But I realized that all these kids are looking up to me. They're listening to everything I say. They're watching everything I do. And so I had to correct my self-talk about myself.
Absolutely.
And so I decided that I was going to refuse to say anything negative about myself, anything negative about my body, anything negative about just who I am, right? Because the girls are going to copy me, right? And so I really think about that. And especially when you are having overnights and there's just a ton of junk food, we're just socialized to be like, if I eat this, then I can't have anything, right?
Or I'm going to have to go like swim extra laps tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. And I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not ever going to talk that way, right? And because I have kids with eating disorders, right? Like I have a high schooler who's got so much childhood trauma that like eating is just incredibly stressful for them. And so I just let them eat everything, right? Like any calories is really important, because this kid is so tiny. But honestly, it doesn't matter. Like I've had students that came out of the foster care system, and so food insecurity was a big part of their experience. And so I don't care. Eat every single snack I have. Like I want you to feel safe. I want your nervous system to feel safe. So that's it. Like be confident in who you are. And I think one of the most important things for that is that we stay grounded and centered. And so that might just mean you get outside and take a quick 10-minute walk and be away from your laptop and away from your phone, right? Like take tiny little breaks whenever you can and just do something good for yourself every day. And that might be eating a vegetable, drinking water, watching a comfort show, like whatever. I play D&D. I started playing D&D about 2 years ago because I needed something that was just fun and wasn't
Mm-hmm.
work.
Yep.
So like you have to do stuff for yourself. There's a disability activism theory called the spoon theory,
Mm-hmm.
which tries to explain how we all have certain amounts of energy every day, but how much energy some activity takes us can be different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say all of us wake up with 10 spoons of energy. And for me, getting ready might take 2, but for somebody else, it might take 5,
Yeah.
right? And so when you've used up all those spoons, you've used up your energy, right? And that could be like your mental energy, like you just can't think anymore. And so disability activists use that to communicate like, oh, I need to rest. I'm out of spoons, right? And then you can wash spoons. So what are those activities that help you regain your energy, right? Is that going to bed a little bit earlier? Is that, just having coffee with a friend in the middle of the day? Like, what does that look like for you because your kids need you to show up for them. So you've got to have the spoons to do that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you really, really, really have to take care of yourself.
I agree.
And like, I know that self-care has been kind of like a buzzword for a while. That I think that can become a little bit of a focus on the individual's responsibility. And I think we really need community care, which is what Women in Youth Ministry does. Like, we need each other as well. We need that support and care that we give each other.
Absolutely. It takes both. I mean, you got back in the church because you knew you needed a community and not to be alone. And that's why so many women are a part of this community, is so that they know they're not alone. But it doesn't stop there. Like I don't think of it as instead of calling it self-care, I think of it a lot as self-compassion. I think self-compassion is the key to not just having more grace for yourself, but also grace for other people as well. I think a lot about how I grew up with the theology that people were at their core evil and bad and sinful, and you're just so lucky that a creator would send his son to die for your dirty, rotten soul, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And I get it. I get that theology, but when I started trying to understand the Bible on my own and trying to kind of erase some influences and read it for myself, I was so struck that we were made in God's image, and that when God made us, God called us good. Very good, actually. And so I was like, okay, so if actually we're at our core good, how does this both impact the way that I view others, but also the way that I view myself too?
Yes.
And so I changed drastically the way that I talk about myself. Sometimes people think that I'm full of myself, and that's okay if they think that, because I will not speak negatively about myself. I know my limitations. I apologize. I own up when I make mistakes, but you're not going to catch me speaking negatively about myself, because to speak negatively about myself would be to speak negatively about God. And that's a theology that I hold near and dear. And I don't allow other people to speak negatively about themselves either. So many of my friends, my youth leaders, the clergy that I coach, my youth, if they ever say anything negative about themselves, like, people are like, oh, I'm so dumb, I didn't mean to do that. I'd be like, I need you to say 3 positive things about yourself right now. And people think I'm lying to them, Gwen. I ain't lying. 3 positive things about yourself right now. And it's a good moment to challenge people to speak more kindly about themselves. And I know, like, I recently lost a bunch of weight. I posted about it on TikTok, just about my journey. And that's what everyone said, is they were like, I'm so, like, the thing that stood out to them was not the weight loss, but how I spoke kindly about myself in every photo of my weight loss. And they were like, that's amazing that you can speak so kindly of yourself at every stage. And it's like, yeah, it's important, because, like, loving yourself is loving God. And if you can't love yourself,
Yes.
and when you love yourself, it increases your capacity to love others. Like as RuPaul said, if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you going to love anybody else? And, RuPaul, Jesus, it all connects here.
I mean, the greatest commandment is to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. But I was never taught that last part either. It was always love God, love your neighbor, put yourself last.
Jesus, others, you, joy. Yeah. But no, I think you can't love people really well without showing compassion and love to yourself. It's so important.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
Well, I love you, and I'm so glad you were on the podcast today. We are going to link any of your socials or ways people can find you in our bio. But yeah, thank you so much for being on this episode. Thanks everybody for listening, and we will see you all very soon. If you enjoyed that podcast, don't forget to rate us 5 stars. You can follow us on Meta, Twitter, and TikTok at Women in YM. If you're a woman, we'd love to have you as part of our Facebook community. Go to womenInYouthMinistry.com to learn more. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Women in Youth Ministry podcast.